Hello, our lovely Girl Awakening listeners. Welcome to 2023. I'm Jo Hendy from the Sacred Sister Project.
I'm Amanda Parker of Mayala Organics.
Come with us as we journey into this week's Awakening episode.
I talk to a spirit.
Good morning, Amanda.
Good morning, Jo.
It's one of those bonus episodes.
Yes, that's really
Yes,
excited.
It is.
It's a lot of fun with this person.
I love when this person comes in because we get to have a broader view of the energies that are at play.
Mm-hmm.
And we are in October, so we're coming into the final eclipse season of the year. I think I'm saying that right. And it sounds and feels. I mean, I'm just talking for myself, but even from the full moon, it was quite potent. So
Yes,
welcome.
there's a lot of energies that we're going to kind of like tap in today with our beautiful guest Emma, who's our astrology guru. We're going to call you that.
I'll own it. I'll take that. Thank
I know
you.
the guru's loaded, but it's a worthy term.
Yeah. Thank you, ladies. Thank you for having me on once again to share some beautiful updates this eclipse season. It's going to be a bit of a doozy, I think.
Oh yeah, I can feel it already. The potency is like palpable.
Yeah, and it's kind of turbulent a little bit as well, isn't it? Like in, normal terms, you'd kind of be going, oh, okay, between now and Christmas, I've got so much to do, all this and that, without realizing, quite what's going on in the quantum space, which I put astrology and those tools and the energies of everything that's moving around us at any one time into that, because we are a part of the oneness that is Earth, cosmos.
So what's been happening, Em?
Yes, tell us.
Lots and lots. So let's just quickly tune back into, I think, it was a week ago on the 29th, we had that Aries full moon, which was a super moon. So I've been speaking to a lot of people, and that moon was actually a really beautiful healing moon. Everyone kind of who I've spoken to, and when I was looking at the chart for that, it could have gone either way. It could have kind of really been a bit of a kick in the pants, but I think for some people, if they were attuned to the energies, they've been doing the work, they knew what was coming up and what to expect, they actually navigated that period really quite well. So that was awesome. And me personally, I think I had such a big amount of growth and breakthrough, and really just kind of left so much from an ending of like a whole lunar cycle, because that full moon actually opened up a whole year of new full moon cycle. So Aries is the start of the zodiac, right? So that full moon was actually a whole new chapter, like a whole new 12-month cycle that we're going to go through all of the full moons once again. So it's like a new beginning. So it's a really beautiful time. Like if there was ever a moon to kind of start to call in new beginnings, even though it was technically a full moon to release, it was actually a beautiful time to just kind of use that to release anything that was blocking you from starting something new.
That's so beautiful. I didn't really understand that, but I felt that.
Yeah. And I think that's the beauty. Obviously, as we've spoken about this before, we all embody this energy, whether we know exactly what's going on, we feel it like within us. So we know like what's coming up in our lives, and obviously it affects us all differently based on our own personal chart. But as the collective thing, we tap into this, we feel it. So yeah, that was beautiful. And that moon as well officially opened our eclipse season portal. So the eclipse portal it lasts for 6 weeks. So it opens on the first full moon before the first solar eclipse. And then it closes on the new moon after the last lunar eclipse. So normally, I'll give you a bit of a hindsight first before we kind of dive into all of this, but we have 2 eclipse seasons per year. So normally one at the start or the end, but obviously depending on which seasons they're falling into as to whether it might be one halfway through, one at the end, vice versa. So with that, we can have up to 3 eclipses in one actual season of that. This particular one, we only have 2. So if we went back to last year, we actually had 6 lots of eclipses. We had 3 in one, the first eclipse season, and then we had 3 in the other eclipse season.
Wow.
So yeah, that can happen. And again, that's more of a rarity. And I don't know how frequently that actually does happen, because it really just depends on the way that the axis points are sitting against the nodes. And that's where you get really technical and into the astronomy side of it, because it's all based on the alignment between the Earth, the moon and the sun when we look at eclipses. So and basically having that, so we will always have the 2 eclipse seasons per year. And then sometimes we'll have 2 in each, or 3. and a total of 4 to 6 across the whole year. Okay, so what we're heading into right now, we're coming into 2 eclipses. So we're going to have an annular solar eclipse and a partial lunar eclipse.
Wow.
Now, at the start of this year, we actually had a hybrid eclipse, which is a total eclipse, and it's really quite rare. So that was the Aries one we had back in, was it mid-March or April? I have to double check the dates there. But that one was quite a rarity. So we kind of felt that a lot more. And that was an out of node eclipse. So that was before the North Node went into Aries. And again, this is what's happening. We sometimes have these crossover points, which is what I'll speak into today. Because we've now had that shift in that axis point. So we were coming out of from the start of, well, the 13th of July, the node axis points shifted this year from Taurus and Scorpio to Libra and Aries, right? And with that shift, this is where it does get a little bit technical, but if I can kind of break it down, just so you can actually understand
beautiful.
how.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, you made a beautiful story. It's all kind of creating a beautiful picture of,
Yeah. And so that Aries eclipse that happened in April, that was actually just a taster of what we were going to step into in July. Because the North Node wasn't actually in Aries, because it was quite a late degree point, and it just works out in the way that the sun, the moon, and the earth line up, and there sometimes will be a little bit of an out of sign eclipse. And so we had that at April, and then when we're coming into this eclipse season, we're actually having one more Taurus lunar eclipse, which is the closing out of the previous 2-year cycle of the North and South Node being in Taurus and Scorpio. And so you kind of have those little bits of polarity. So it's been a really interesting eclipse season because we've had those blended and those mixed signs and out of nodal eclipses, if that makes sense. Next year, though, we'll have all of our eclipses in Aries and Libra, except for actually one. We'll have one in Pisces as well. And that will be as that starts to shift towards the back end of next year. But yeah, it's been a very interesting eclipse season so far to start. So
just a quick question on that. So when the eclipse is in a certain sign, is it more intense and powerful for anyone born under that sign, or is it,
Definitely. So if you have, obviously like your sun, like most people know their sun sign. So yes, if you have a sun sign, whether it be in Aries, that would be a North Node eclipse hitting you there. That was back in April. Again, Aries isn't too heavily evolved in this particular eclipse season. But we obviously had that moon that opened the portal. So we got those themes of what was sort of coming up. And then, so if you have Libra, this particular season, if you're a Libra or a Taurus, you will definitely feel this more heightened. Taurus will be more so closing a chapter of what came up for you 2 years ago. And if you have Libra, then that's really starting something new, and it's going to be a real time to like purge a lot of stuff. So it's just beginning for you, Librans.
And also, like, because Venus rules both of those signs as a planet, doesn't it? So that brings up the value, like self-worth, beauty, creativity, finances, those kind of things in relationship to where you're at.
For the born people that aren't in that sign, whatever the aspects are of that sign, what you're saying is what people will be feeling more of or need to move more into,
or just
it really does. It becomes so obviously eclipses, like we feel this on a collective scale as it is. So we can look back and see, like, when we went through this Taurus North Node and Scorpio South Node eclipse, this is when we had all of this inflation, all of our things related to food, money, resources, all kind of went up. The share market kind of did some weird and wonderful things. Cryptocurrencies and all sorts of things did some shifts and changes across from the back of 2021 until now. So that's like the collective theme. So we have those collective themes playing out. And then if you don't have any planets or points in that particular area of your chart, that will just come out still in that area that it's expressed through, whichever house. So you will still feel that, not as much as, say, someone that has their sun, their moon, their rising, their Venus, or any of their like planet angles, which is points in their chart as well. So those people would feel that more. So when I kind of give a general thing as now, like, obviously I don't know how this is affecting everyone because I haven't seen everyone's personal chart, but just a general thing, I guess. Hold on, let me just tap into everyone.
Let me just tap into the collective.
But so for this upcoming one, it will definitely be felt. So again, there's different places that this is going to affect. So if you have any planets that are later degrees in, say, Libra, so all of the cardinal signs, so Libra, Aries, Cancer, or Capricorn, you will feel this in this upcoming, this Libra one, and then moving into the next 2 years. This is now going to be putting a lot of pressure. So if you have even your sun sign, you will definitely feel this. And I guess at least everyone should know their sun sign. So without even having a look at their chart, you will feel this across this next 2 years. And then for the people and all of the fixed signs where we've just come out of, I would love to say that fixed signs, it's going to get easier, but we're going to get a little reprieve. So we're going to finish with a bang.
What are the fixed signs again?
So it's Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Leo.
Okay.
So we've been put under the ringer. We really have. I can tell you this personally, and I know there's still aspects that have been hitting my chart quite a lot. So it's been great. It's all growth, and I'm here for it. This is exactly what my soul signed up for.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
But just as a heads up, all of the fixed signs are going to have Pluto coming into a fixed sign of Aquarius. So across the next 20 years, we're going to be put under the ringer of Pluto. So
I'm still going to be friends with you. Yes, because I'm transforming in a way that serves me in the collective.
So, I would love to say for the fixed signs that it's going to get easier. It will for a little bit, and then it's going to get a little bit more challenging. So, look, it's all growth. That's what it is. It's all growth.
And it's I'll keep telling you.
Yeah. And tell me that. Because the thing was and this is why coming to see you for a chart is so incredible, because you can personalize things. And like speaking for myself, I've got a Capricorn rising, Capricorn first house, second house Aquarius. I'm in Aquarius. I have 3 planets in Aquarius.
Yeah.
So I've been going through this whole Pluto and Capricorn, Pluto going into Aquarius.
Oh, gosh.
So I have like Mars and Libra in my 10th house.
Yeah.
So I've had a couple of very intense years, a lot of change in every area of my life, basically. And but also now this whole Libran energy is also having an effect in a very pivotal part of my chart as well, like where I stand in the world, like where I see myself in the world and things. And so there's so much
you can get time.
So much insight. And so it's really exciting to hear you talking around these things on a collective level, because the gift is there to just be able to trust yourself or tune into.
Well, you have a better understanding.
Yes,
you have an understanding of what's happening, and it takes the pressure off a little bit, because you'd be like, oh yes, okay, I was prepared for this, or I was aware of this.
Yeah 100%. And with the whole thing about being prepared or whatever, as we move into eclipse season, the biggest piece of advice I can give you is expect the unexpected.
Yeah. I was just thinking that. Yeah. The old bloody eclipses, because they like to fiddle with things, don't they? Especially electronics and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, it will be dependent on how it affects your chart personally. But the biggest piece of advice, and this is something that, again, I've probably bent the rules a little bit with this slightly, but under an eclipse season, I won't go out and manifest under that solar eclipse. I won't go out and charge my crystals under that lunar eclipse. It's just wild energy, and it's a little bit, it's not, well, maybe before when I was going through my bit of a wild woman phase, I was like, oh, eclipse energy, great, let's embody this, is powerful. And then I was kind of like, okay, yeah, that was a bit too hectic. Probably didn't need to have all these crystals charged with this ecliptic energy, and it's now really a lot.
Yeah.
So like for me personally, I won't be, manifesting under this next new moon in Libra. Well, it's obviously a solar eclipse, and then the lunar Taurus eclipse, like I won't be putting my crystals out. I'll look at the moon and I'll, still commune with the moon, but I will just I think this is where I'm sort of coming to the understanding now, and the deeper I get into this astrology, is eclipses are karmic. They're fated. You have no real say in things. It's a course correction. So if you were going this way, but the universe was like, actually, you're meant to be over here, it'll be like, something cool.
This is what another lady that I've been following for a long time talks about. She says, the eclipse season, all it is, it's almost like a rewind to rewrite what you did wrong, at the last time, if this happened, or, it's like
you didn't make the best choice.
Yeah, where you didn't make the best choices, where you can actually okay, you can look at that again, you'll get another opportunity. It's like it comes back around again for you to have another opportunity.
Yeah, exactly right. And so eclipses, again, they work in seasons and cycles. So this particular time where the North Node was in Aries wasn't happening until, I did write this down, I think it was back in 2004. So you can look up themes in 2004, 2005. That was the last time the North Node was in Aries. So this is obviously how astrologers can then also look at things as terms of collective forecasting, looking back at what kind of happened, what themes came up, and then kind of being like, okay, well, that happened then. And they look across a series of, you know, hundreds of years as to the history and evolution of what's happened. So they can get a general idea of like, okay, this particular eclipse brought up this with people, but, you know, obviously the other planets and stuff are changing as well. So it's like, how can we, you know, look at those influences now? And, you know, everything's obviously constantly changing, but we can still get those kind of generic themes from that too.
Yeah, the energy, because themes of energy.
Yeah, because in ancient cultures who used to work a lot more with the sun and the moon, eclipses used to be like a more ominous, didn't they? Like around times of change, or, you know, and affecting them, you know, across the country, or like, you know, famine, plague, rains for the crops, things like that, or, you know, how wonderful seasons or things like that. They would stay indoors and have respect, if you want to say it that way, to the eclipses.
And it was something that was like, from some of the readings and research that I've also looked at as well, it's like some of those civilizations were actually terrified, because especially if they were in close to the equator and experiencing like a total solar eclipse, like one moment the sun just disappears, like, and not knowing, like they were kind of just be like, what the fuck, like this only happens like especially if we have a total one, like that's quite rare. And so there was this story that I heard where I don't know, it was a famous not a pirate, a salesman, boatman, whatever. Sailor, that's the word.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's the word? It's
Trades.
And he actually was trying to, so he'd come to look at some land, but he was actually an astrologer, and he understood and knew that this was happening. So he had forecasted this, and he went to this native tribe who they were running out of food and they needed shelter. And he said, I'm going to tell the gods that if you don't give me food, the gods are going to take away your son. And then, like, because he knew the eclipse was only going to happen for like, it normally for a total one, it will move across like a set amount of minutes. And so he knew that was going to happen. And he was like, so, and then they agreed, like they were like, oh, no, you're making it up. And then the sun disappeared. And then he was like, I told you. And then they gave them the food, and then it came back. And they were like, oh, we kept balance with the gods. Like, so they used to do stuff like that if they knew about it. Like,
that's a heavy karmic load for that sailor, isn't it? I mean, you know, he's messing with people.
Yeah. That next eclipse season's going to be shit for him.
So it'd be interesting to see who he's reincarnated now on our planet. Might be.
Next lifetime he came back as one of those villagers.
That's
wild.
Moving forward now, so what are we coming into now? I know, is the 7th something big's happening on the 7th or around the 7th and 9th? I'm not
the 8th, Venus. So let's kind of, again, so you did mention this before, Venus is the ruler of these two eclipses, right? And so
Venus is a beautiful planet, isn't it? Yes,
she is. She's beautiful, and we've had a lot of work done with Venus going through her retrograde period just before this in Leo. And she spent a lot of time in Leo because she had a retrograde point there. She's normally not in a sign for that long. So she's been there. Did I write that one down? I feel like I've got so many notes in my book, and I'm like,
we're getting a little glimpse of your book too for those who are watching on YouTube and seeing all the symbols and this and that. I love your book. Must be so fun.
And anyway, so I'm pretty sure it was around the start of July that Venus entered Leo, and then she's only just about to come out of Leo. So she's been there from July until like the 8th of October. She will move into Virgo. So she'll move into Virgo, and this is before the eclipses, because the first eclipse is on the 15th. So that will be the first one in Libra. So she's going to bring through this whole new signature and flavor of refinement. So a Venus in Virgo is all about refining things. So all of the stuff that came up for us under that Venus retrograde in Leo, now she's coming through, and Virgo is all about fixing things, solutions, finding a fix to a problem, refining it, making it better. And so this is the energy that she's going to carry with under now being ruling these eclipses. So it's all about refining. Eclipses bring light to things as well. So especially with this solar eclipse on the south, like which is affecting the Libra South node, this is going to bring light to a lot of stuff that was lurking in the shadows that you might have kind of maybe felt if you were really in tune, or maybe it's something you were completely unconscious to. And it's going to then be illuminated. And then having Venus as the ruler of this, she's in this really dynamic sign of Virgo, who just wants to fix things, who wants to keep being of service, being refined. And that's the kind of flavor of these eclipses as well. So it's a really interesting time, because not only are relationships being affected, but it's also our relationship to our own health, because Venus in Virgo also is all about our own health and how we can refine and fix. So that can also be something that can come up as well under this, because astrology is all about layering. So we look at, the sign that Venus is in, the sign that the eclipse is in, what other things are ruling on that moon, like what planets are influencing that particular moon at that point in time. So we look at all of that to paint this picture of like how this is best going to kind of express itself.
Wow.
And so, it's quite a lot when we really do break it down, because it's one thing for me to just say, it's a solar eclipse in Libra. And it's just like, I talk about Libran themes and like, Libras are beautiful. They're social. They're a bit indecisive. They're the balance. They're justice seekers. But when we look at the reality of it under an eclipse and then throw in everything else that it's got going, it's actually kind of a bit of a time where it's like actually really looking at the shadow aspects of Libra. And so this one, and again, I think we sort of spoke about this a little bit. I might have spoken about, I think the last episode we did around that North and South node axis point, around those Libran themes of the South node. And it's all about, where are you being a people pleaser to make others feel comfortable and at the detriment of yourself? Because this Aries North node really wants us to focus back to ourselves and looking after, I guess it's that, not in a selfish way, but, I can't help you until I help me. And so I need to get my shit sorted, so then I can collaboratively help others or be connected and involved with others in that sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, put your faith mask on first.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. They say it on the airplanes all the time.
Yeah, well, that's interesting.
So everywhere I look at the moment, I keep seeing and hearing like about right relationship. And it's right relationship with self, with others, with our planet, with food, with work, like the holistic aspect of what our right relationships, like moving out of dysfunctional relationships and uneven relationships to right relationship.
And it's all about, so this, having this in Libra is all about restoring equilibrium. Okay, that's the beauty of Libra, is it wants balance, it wants equilibrium. So it's going to show you where you've been out of balance. It's going to show you, yes, this can be related to relationships, but say, for instance, I have Libra in my 3rd house. So it's activating all around like communication, neighbors, short-term travel, and all those kinds of things are being brought up for me. And so I'm going to be interested to see how that actually does play out. Because
we're going to invite you down to the Gold Coast. Short-term travel.
So who knows where that might, where I might end up with that. But again, there's so many other things at play that, can come up too. So that's just one aspect where it might affect me personally. So for me, it's not so much about the one-to-one relationships as yet. I've just come out of my Saturn return in Aquarius in the 7th house of relationships. So I've been doing that relationship work for quite some time, and it's going to keep going. And it's like, I looked at my chart and I was like, why the fuck is everything related to relationships? Like, then Pluto's going to come along, and then Pluto is going to hit over my Saturn in 20 years time, and it's going to rethink and transform all of my relationships once again. It's like, if Saturn wasn't enough, Pluto's going to make sure. Like, this is all my karma, is literally connecting with other people and like looking at even where my career point or my midheaven point is. It's all about coming together in community. But for me to do that, I have to be able to work through and be okay with relationships and how I show up in relationships, and is there a healthy balance and all that sort of stuff, and doing things differently and uniquely. Like, this is when you look at your chart, like, this is how much you can kind of understand and get about where you're headed with life. And so that's just me, like my chart, for instance. But like for you guys, if you had something, wherever Libra is, whatever house that is, that's going to bring up more of those Libran themes. So yes, it can be relationships as the collective stuff, But then, you know, it might be hitting your work house. So it might actually be giving you a shake up in your work, your routine, your day-to-day stuff, if Libra is in your 6th house, for instance. So there's so much when it comes to that as to, you know, how it's actually going to unfold for you too.
So interesting. And just quickly for our listeners too, because I heard you briefly talked about your Saturn return.
Yes.
Usually around, is it the 27-year-old mark where people go through it, or is it different? And does everybody have one?
Yes, everyone will go through a Saturn return. Now, it really depends. So I had my Saturn return, and again, I'm still kind of under the thumb of Saturn because I have my Saturn at 29 degrees, which is the anaretic degree point of Aquarius. So yes, Saturn went into Aquarius 2.5 years ago, and it's now just gone into Pisces earlier in March this year. And so even though because it retrogrades back and forth over certain points, so for me, my Saturn return completed at about just after 30, and it's still technically going now, so it's like 30 and a half. But for some people, if they have, say, a 1 degree point of Saturn, they're going to feel that a lot earlier, so say 27, and it's going to move forward across that point because they're going to start to feel that from the outer sign part to the inner sign part, and then it's going to keep going. So Saturn is an interesting thing there, but that's why we kind of do the general rule of thumb between 27 to 29 and a half will be when you're really feeling that at its peak.
So I'm having my 2nd Saturn return because I'm 56 and Saturn and Pisces in my natal chart.
Do you know what degree point it is for you?
I've just forgotten, but I think it's around 26 or 23, something like that.
So it'll be probably closer to when you're edging on to like 59, 58. That will probably be when you'll get more of that.
Yeah. You can feel it coming.
Yeah. But again, that's the thing, like you will feel it will start to build.
It's like menopause.
Start building up. Yeah. It's an interesting time, Saturn. And again, Saturn is like another one of those course correctors. If you have been really not doing the work and not on the right path of where your soul is wanting to go, Saturn will make sure that it recorrects you too. So that's where I get these bigger themes. So, you know, Saturn, again, takes about 2.5 years to move through each of the signs. So for that 2.5 years, that's the focus in that particular area of your life. And that's what the karma is of your soul, that it's chosen to really work through in this lifetime. So if you haven't done the work, Saturn will make sure that you do. But when you do, Saturn rewards you, right? You get the reward.
It's like a massive eclipse, a really powerful eclipse, but it's a planet. It's a whole planet.
Yeah.
It's making you have a look at everything you haven't looked at.
It's like having a grandfather, isn't it? Looking over your shoulder going, oh, sweetie, no.
Yeah, exactly. And then so like eclipses run on an 18-month cycle. So again, like there's that theme of 18 months is going to shake up a bit of your life in those areas for 18 months. So, and again, all of the planets have their own cycles and they all activate our charts at some point throughout our lives. But what we really look at, like from Saturn and the outer planets, if you have an outer planet hitting one of your inner planets, that's where it's really strong and you will really feel that. That's a massive transit. Yeah. So I'm going to have Saturn now. After I've just come out of my Saturn return, I'm thinking like, I looked at the chart and I was like, fuck, now it's going to square my moon. So now all of this stuff come back to my relationships.
And money issues coming up.
Yeah. It's like daddy, like, I'm just like, seriously, Saturn, like, can you just give me a bit of breathing space?
Wow.
No. Oh, you got to laugh, don't you?
That's true. You're to be playing small.
That's right. There's lots of work to be done.
Yeah. Well, that's also women's work, isn't it? Like the moon relationship with women, you know, the women, you know, it's a community, like community women's work. So it's a very exciting, and mums and what that potentially mean. So there's again, have a chart reading with Emma.
Yes, absolutely.
So back to the eclipses.
Yes, I know. I feel like it's always a tangent with me. I'm just going to quickly review my note of this Libra solar eclipse, just so I can really break this down a little bit more.
We have been distracting. We have been playing distractions, but it's interesting.
It is. I think it's great for our listeners to have a better understanding of, you know, what it all means.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to touch on, which I think is really important. Like, what actually constitutes an eclipse? So whenever we have an eclipse, as I mentioned, we have it comes in 2s or sometimes 3s, and we always have a solar one and a lunar one. So what constitutes a solar eclipse is where I always get confused. Like I have to draw diagrams so I can remember to understand it, because each time I'm like, fuck, is it the sun and the moon? Like which one?
Yeah. And it's the same with the nodes, because I know it's the intersection of this and that, but it's like, which one around is it again? It's the moon going through the
yeah. So a solar eclipse is where if we have Earth here, right, we've got the moon in the middle and then the sun here. Now, what happens is the moon is in between the Earth and the sun, and so that casts a shadow over the sun. Now, this particular solar eclipse, the Libra one, is actually what we call an annular eclipse. So it's not actually going to be complete darkness. It's actually just going to create a ring of fire, right? So there'll be parts of Central America, I think some parts of South America, like through Costa Rica, even in, I think Texas is one of the big points that you'll be able to actually witness this happen to the sun, and it will turn into a ring of fire. It'll be black, and then it will have a ring of fire.
That would be epic.
Yeah. And so the one that we had in Aries, which was that total solar eclipse, that was actually visible from the Pilbara in Australia in April.
Yes, people actually went there
from around
the world to watch it.
And it's a massive thing. So again, when you're working with a solar eclipse, you have to wear special glasses to look at it, because it will almost like blind you, apparently. Like I don't know what the thing is with that, but you have to wear special glasses when you look at the sun. So that is what this is. Like the first one is a solar eclipse. Now the other really cool thing, we had it, you know how we've been banging on about all these super moons, right? And everything, the Pisces was the super full moon, and the Aries moon was still a super full moon, not quite as close as the Pisces one, but still constituted a super full moon. Now this moon is actually at its lunar apogee, which is its furthest point away from the Earth. So that means we're having a micro moon, but a ring of fire. So it's really interesting. It's the polarities of the supermoons. We also have the micro moon too. So again, because of that, doesn't mean it's any less powerful, because it's supercharged by an eclipse. So to give you a bit of context on this, the last ring of fire that we had was actually on the, hold on, where did I write this one? So that was the last solar. Was in 2004 was the last one that we had, and the next one that we're going to have is 2039.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so they're quite rare.
Yeah.
And so basically having that as the ring of fire is burning away anything. So this is a real time of like releasing, and the sun is just like, hey, I'm here to really illuminate these parts that you have been unconscious to, and it's going to burn it away whether you like it or not. And it's a really, really potent time. So really wanted to just highlight that, because I think once you actually understand, you know, the actual astronomy of it, how it all works and what's actually happening up there in the sky, it makes sense, because you can kind of draw on that and be like, wow, that's actually really fucking cool. Like obviously for us here in the Southern Hemisphere, we don't actually get to see the ring of fire, which is a shame, but that's okay. If you're closer, it's mostly all of the countries and places within close spectrum to the equator line, because it works on the axis and the orbit of Earth, and it's on a 35-degree orbit, and that's where it gets real technical. I'm still trying to wrap my head around all of that as to where it makes it visible and all that sort of stuff. And so that's the solar, right? Now the lunar eclipse is where we have the moon and the Earth and the sun. So the Earth comes between the sun and the moon, right? Now, this one is just a partial one. So the moon can still be seen. It's only blocked out partially by the Earth. So it's still going to have like a bit of a reddish tinge, and, you know, parts of it will kind of go dark and black, but we'll still be able to see some of it. So we'll just kind of have that red tinge. And again, from my understanding, I don't think we'll be able to witness too much from where we are here in Australia. We might get we might see a little bit of the reddish glow. But I haven't actually confirmed visually whether that's going to be something we can look and see. So that's the science of eclipses.
Unreal.
I'm totally geeking out here. This is like
we're loving it. We're loving it. So what can we do to amplify the good stuff? Especially, let's just look at October.
So I think the best thing to do is to honestly just be quiet. Meditate, come back to grounding. Eclipses again can be really a big like time of upheaval for people. So really making sure that you're anchored and you're grounded within your body. You know, don't be kind of real jittery and, you know, really stressing out over this. Like, this is not a time for that. You know, if you aren't grounded or you're not doing the work or you're not slowing down, yeah, you might feel like a bit of a crazy person and you might be a bit on edge. So the biggest thing is to just take a breath and slow down. That's the biggest piece of advice when it comes to eclipses. And I guess the other part is, again, what I mentioned, like, I'm not going to be going out on this next new moon to go and write my intentions down, because I know karmically, like, whatever I say is going to be overruled anyway. Like, it's you know, it's much bigger than me as this little human down here.
Yes. And you're actually running a workshop about all around this eclipse season. Yeah. So if anyone's listening is interested and wants to jump on board, we will put Em's links down below. But that, you know, if this has triggered something in you and you find it really interesting, I say jump on in. Em's like a world of knowledge when it comes to astronomy and astrology and planets and all of that. It's really beautiful.
So in that workshop, I'm going to actually break down each of your like based on your rising sign, and tell you exactly where it's hitting your chart. And again, depends on how many people I get on that call. I'm going to kind of look at everyone's charts and really just hone in and really highlight if there's particular people or influences that are going to be affecting. I'm going to make sure that I'll give you the most personalized thing with that too. So
I'd be really interested in as an experiment to see what those people that join you have got in common. If you like, similar vibe thing going on.
That usually happens, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's like with a shadow workshop or something like that. Everyone's kind of there for the same purpose, or I've
had so many Librans reach out at the moment who are kind of like, "What's going on?" I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm loving your little Instagram posts. They literally just fill me up. I love watching them, and just how open and authentic you are. It's just, you know, it's like, oh, thanks, Em. Okay, you can do that, and that's why this is feeling this way. So, thank you so much for sharing all of that knowledge with everybody. Yeah.
Really we've got the solar eclipse coming up. When is that?
So that's on October the 15th. So that will hit at 21 degrees of Libra. And I'm pretty sure the time of that is around 4 a.m. that will be at its peak, where it will block out part of the sun, but obviously on the other side of the world for us. And the other thing that was a really cool fact is that with that shadow that's cast over the moon, right, it's going to be blocking, the sun. That's going to be blocking the sun for a total of 5 minutes. Well, like, we're going to have that ring of fire at its peak for a total of 5 minutes. Now, when we look at what 5 minutes means here on Earth to what it means in the stars, it actually represents 5 years. So this is actually something that's going to be, whatever is happening under this moon is going to be taking effect across the next 5 years. It's like a strong theme that's going to continue on.
Wow.
So that's a really interesting thing to keep in mind. And again, sometimes, like, you can tell people this now, but it's not until you go hindsight and, you know, in 5 years' time, looking back at what was coming up now and what, you know, where you're at. That's the beauty of this too. So have that in mind. Like, this is kind of setting you up for the next 5 years as well.
That's why it's good to write down, like, or journal how you're feeling or what's happening in your world, just for the sake of that.
Yeah. And you can go back and kind of be like, oh, wow, you know, this is what I was feeling. This is where I was. And wow, look how much I've grown and shifted and changed to, like, this person, or, you know, whatever it might be. It's so powerful. So that's the other thing is that right now, like, as I mentioned before, like, not only is grounding really important, but journal how you're feeling, where you are right now, what is happening in your life, where you feel there's things that need to be changed, or, you know, even just how you're feeling around everything. And then, you know, keep that consistent. And then even when we come back to eclipse season early next year in April, just revisit and see what's shifted and changed within that time. Because sometimes eclipses, and again, these are two powerful purging and releasing eclipses. So things that you might not necessarily expect, like there might be some job loss or something really unexpected, like it's a loss of something, these two eclipses. They're really asking us to take something away so that it can bring us something new. So understand that too. If you are going through a really rough time across the next few weeks, and this energy, again, still, just because we have these eclipses here doesn't mean that it just stops. Like, this energy still continues to play out. So just have that in mind. Like, if there is something that becomes really hard or things are being taken away, it's for your best and highest good, because as we sort of mentioned at the start of this call, and I don't know if that was actually recorded, we were talking about Pluto playing a role, but Pluto is putting pressure on these nodes too. And Pluto is like the planet of death, birth, and transformation. So the death has to happen, which is the releasing, letting go of something. Yeah. Then there's going to be that, time where you're alchemizing, you're in the cocoon or the chrysalis, and then you emerge as the butterfly as you've alchemized something else. But you had to release that idea of being a caterpillar so that you could be a butterfly, that's the sort of energy and the themes that are really present at the moment in this eclipse season.
That's what we've been, Amanda and I have been talking about a lot around the default. There's like a default, a human default that we all have, and it's an individual thing where when something happens, like a crisis or anything, it can be something small, we default to an old way of being or a program that we're in or whatever.
Even if it's negative, because it's safe somehow.
Exactly.
It's comfortable and it's remembered. It's
but I'm becoming, and we've talked about this, that there's this stronger awareness around acknowledging that or seeing it and being, oh wow, look at me, look how I just did that, and being able to change it in the moment.
Yeah. And I think it comes back to as well, it's this mass awakening. Like all of a sudden we're kind of like, and we've spoken about this on previous episodes about the veil being lifted. It's like, oh shit, like we're actually part of something bigger than just this 3D earth thing that we thought we were a part of. And there's so many people, and it's going to continue to happen. Like people are waking up. And I've had like even family members and stuff who have like, called me a weirdo for years, been like, fucking worshiping the moon and you're going off with the stars. But now they're like, oh my God, what you said, like I totally agree with that. And like they're actually like, this shit, like you can't make this up. And they're like, people are awakening to this as well. So there's definitely breaking, previous patterns and cycles. So this is the time where it's really like giving us that awakening.
And we were talking about this this morning, I think, around, we might have been saying something, say 5 or 6, 7, for a long time, and suddenly you're saying the same thing, and suddenly people are hearing it and going and understanding what you're saying, and it's like you've been saying the sky is blue for eons, and they're going, oh, I saw it this morning, the sky is blue, and you go, and this is where the journaling is so powerful, because you actually get to reflect on things and read back, and you have a better communication with your thought process or your emotions, and just what you were saying before about the 5-year cycle, which relate in relationship to the 5 minutes. I was reflecting on my own conversations the last month or so, and I never really talk in 5-year cycles, and I can think of like 4 different conversations where I've said about a 5-year plan. And it's funny how these things, they come in, and it's subconscious until it becomes conscious. Your journaling is a powerful way to, and dialoguing with astrology as this tool is a powerful way to help support the conscious connection to where you're going on a soul-led direction, and then your eyes suddenly become open, you go, oh, okay, I see where I am. I see what I'm doing.
It's so powerful.
Beautiful.
The other thing that we haven't even really, we've been hanging on about the Libra one, the Taurus one, we haven't really
tell us about that.
Bring it.
That one is also ruled by Venus. However, it's more of the themes related to like pleasure, money. The way that I look at, because these both Taurus and Libra are naturally ruled by Venus, again, the Venus expression through Libra is all about the relationships, the coming together, the balancing, the harmonious beauty. That sort of is the Venus themes there. And then when it comes to Venus and Taurus, it's more about like the pleasure, the values, being like more related to like tangible resources, because it's earthly, it's grounded, it's like your food, did I say money already? Money. all those things. So this it'll be really interesting to see collectively, because the last couple of lunar eclipses that we've had in Taurus have created a bit of chaos in the cryptocurrency scene. And a lot of the financial stuff, like if you go back, it's literally the same day that the eclipse happened in Taurus, that there was some kind of shift and change on stock market, cryptocurrencies, anything related to money. So it'll be really interesting to see at the end of this month what happens. And I know, like, if we're looking even just here in Australia, like even with like the rate rises and things, like how that might correlate. We've been put on I think, did it get put on hold? I actually didn't even see what happened this week. But yeah, what happens, whether they still shift the rates or inflation goes up more, like it'll be really interesting, because this is where this Taurian theme collectively has been playing out.
Right.
So
the banks might collapse.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. I mean, anything is possible with an eclipse, and that's exactly what it's been preparing us for. Is, you know, there's going to be something, because Uranus is in Taurus too, so that again is really big upheaval thrown in amongst all the chaos here. And this lunar eclipse as well, Jupiter is in Taurus, so it's under the thumb of Jupiter, so everything is going to be magnified and expanded. So it's a big moon. So not only is it a full moon, it's the eclipse, and then we've got Jupiter. So it's a big one, and it's closing out that 2.5 year cycle that we've been through, where we had that Taurus North node. So think back to the first time that the nodes went into, the North node was in Taurus, was the 23rd of December of 2021. So have a feel back and tune back into what was coming up for you around the end of 2021 and all across 2022 and into the start of 2023, and what was coming up for you. And this is basically like the final closure. Like if there's still something that hasn't been brought up to your awareness, or you're still waiting on something, you haven't been able to action something or do something, this is going to show you, and it's going to illuminate that for you.
This concerns me. I'm just thinking into that. So I'm thinking about that was kind of like when we came out of COVID.
Yes, yeah. And so it's like, what is beyond that? Like it's a whole interesting time. And then the other thing, which I think is going to be, this eclipse is, I have a it's just like my own little psychic prophecy and looking at trends and things. I personally think that we are in, and you've just said it before, like our financial systems across like a global whole are definitely going to come under scrutiny, because we've got this eclipse. It's also got the effect of Jupiter. And then next year in May, we have Jupiter and Uranus coming in for a conjunction, which is quite rare, and it's in Taurus. And Uranus is all about upheaval, big changes, big shifts, and all the rebellion and shaking up and crumbling systems and the status quo. And then Jupiter is going to magnify all of that, and it's under Taurus. So there's going to be really big shifts, and I don't know what it's going to be, but I think there's going to be some kind of big shift and change when it comes to money, finances, and things. So be interesting to see what happens.
We're all going to get $1 million.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, is like having Jupiter in Taurus as well. It's like a really abundant time and prosperous time. And then, you know, whether it's a lot of money coming in quickly to you, a lot of money going out, depending on where this is falling in your chart. This is in my career house, so I'm like, okay, all this money, let's...
Yes. I'm going with the flowing in and the flowing out. Yeah.
But you get a sense of this, like what you're describing, like, you know, the going back to December 2021 to now, and then, you know, the conjunction next year. You get the sense of that, you know, where we talk about the knock, and then that knock, and then that boom, kind of thing. This little kind of like evolution of energies around, like, you know, are you listening? Are you, you know?
Yeah, this is where we look at like what we were just saying as well, like this Aries full moon that we had before that opened this portal. We're all kind of like, oh, this is great. Like, I feel like that's the calm before the storm. Like, I don't want to be that person. I'm normally such a positive person. And I hope I'm proving myself wrong, but I know that was just like, I'm like, oh, I feel great. I'm alive. Like, it's spring. Like, you know, I'm ready. I'm here for it. And then when I look at all this astrology and I'm like, oh, and I think how it's affecting me personally and what's going on, I'm like, oh, am I like, we'll just see.
But it's going to happen, right? Isn't it? Like, because we're talking about the you know, the caterpillar, even, you know, like, you know, to think about turning into goop. Yeah, it's a big thing, isn't it? You know, like, it's not necessarily about it being, you know,
all fairies and butterflies.
It's not all fairies and butterflies, and it's not all, you know, I mean, you can say there's no gain without pain, but, you know, what is the pain if we're not living in right relationship, if we're not honoring ourselves, if we're not honoring the earth? How does that come about? And you know, that we've talked about before with COVID, how that was a big reset, and it was an opportunity to go, hey, things are pretty shitty. We're not doing things well. Let's, you know, and people having having choice around themselves, their sovereignty, or how we could be living better in the world, always right up on the front page of consciousness. So this is kind of an evolution, as you say, like flicking back to that December 21. There's opportunity for a lot of change, and it might be a bit uncomfortable, but are we going to have better outcomes if we're working in the right space?
We need it. We need to be shoved and shaken and prodded. That's what gives us a kick up the arse, and sometimes we need that to become better versions of who we are.
100%. And one other thing, which I just had a quick glance that I didn't mention with this Taurus lunar eclipse, okay, there's another thing that's quite potent. Right directly opposite it, we have Mars and Mercury coming together in a conjunction in Scorpio. So this is quite fierce. Now, Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio, so he's happy there. And so there's a time of, I guess the way that I kind of looked at this was just be mindful of your words, the Scorpio sting and Mars, and action, and think before you speak, especially around this build-up of this moon and the days before and the days after. Don't pick a fight, because when it's in Scorpio as well, it's like, even if it's just, you're trying to say something as constructive criticism to someone and they don't take it on well, it's going to play out, like it's going to linger on, and you're going to have to justify yourself further. And it's like, when it's in Mars, it goes, when it's in Scorpio, it goes deep. And so just watch your words, watch your thoughts, watch your tongue, all that sort of stuff is another really practical tip when it comes to this lunar eclipse in Taurus. So that was my other big thing that I was like, I have to tell people.
That's definitely a good one not to miss out on.
Choose your battles.
Yeah.
And then thoughts are powerful. You can manifest from your thoughts, and with even from the communication point of view, it's very, very potent and good space to be conscious about. But also, like, what are you choosing to manifest? What are you wanting to bring real?
Exactly right. So,
but we're not manifesting anything right now. We're not choosing to manifest. We're not.
I mean, you know what? Like, I say that, but if you feel really called, like you want to work with that, again, I've done it in the past, and I have worked with Eclipse energy. Probably it wasn't for my best thing moving forward. I learned, but if you feel really called to, like, don't listen. Like, if it feels like you finally just come on board with manifestation, and you're like, oh, I really want to, I've been doing it with every new moon, like, do it. Like, at the end of the day, whatever feels like, always go back to you. Like, don't always come back to, oh, well, she said don't do this, or like, you know what I mean? You've got to trust you.
Use your discernment. Use your discernment. And the other thing that I'm getting is that it's probably a beautiful opportunity to have a clean out. That's what I'm getting. It's just more of a clean out, a purge. No, I like it. I love it. Oh my God. So much to take on, Em. Thank you so much.
So when was the lunar eclipse again? The second eclipse? Of
the 29th of October. And that happens at 5 degrees of Taurus.
Right at the end.
Yeah. With a bang, and then it's right in the middle of Scorpio season, and then you've got all that beautiful alchemy of Scorpio to kind of have the death, the transformation. It's just it's beautiful that it's falling exactly in that one. And then the Scorpio new moon, which will be on the, I think that's, did I write that one down? That must be in, I think it's from memory, the 15th of November, but don't quote me. It's sometime around them. That will then close this eclipse portal, right?
Okay.
And then that official eclipse season is technically, quote unquote, done. But obviously we're still in these energies, and then we'll have our next eclipse season in April next year of 2024.
Wow. What a beautiful opportunity to cleanse, clear, let go, purge, so we can come into the end of the year feeling kind of a little refreshed and renewed. So a really good tool at the moment would be to start, like, say, like a daily journal, because the eclipse season has started already with that Aries full moon. That was the beginning of the eclipse season, that 6-week period that you're talking about, from the Aries full moon until that Scorpio new moon in November. So journaling now, and just kind of even being in that mindful space around what this time period is for you would be really good exercise, wouldn't it?
Definitely. 100%. And again, like they call it, the eclipse wormhole is literally right when we have that first solar eclipse to then that lunar eclipse. So that 2 weeks is a period of really heightened energy as well. So it's like the 2 weeks kind of leads you into it, you kind of build into it, then it's like the wormhole, and then it's kind of like the cleaning up and whatever else, like the recovery of that That's
Beautiful.
the way you kind of look at that period. Yeah.
I like that. That's yeah.
It's like a little, you can
Beautiful.
do like a little, it's like a little cosmic retreat, isn't it? Like a cosmic spiritual retreat where you can just track yourself, how you're going through this time, and then read back on it and reflect on what played out around you as well as what you were writing down. And how much fun is that?
A beautiful time. So again, like, don't be afraid of eclipse season. Just be prepared for the unexpected. And you know, it's all, when you think of it, even when you're in the middle of it, if something really shit happens, just think like, okay, it is for my highest growth. Like, something better is coming along, which I know is hard when you're in that, if you are in that place.
Yeah.
But just know and trust that, like, it's for your highest good. Okay. So
it's so beautiful. And look at this. I pulled a card this morning.
Trustworthy guidance. Oh, I love that. So
and
good.
It's basically everything you just said just then. And that's a really beautiful way to close it off. Thank you so much, Em, for coming.
Thank you, ladies.
And, explaining all of this wild energy that we're about to step into and we are in already.
Very exciting.
Yeah. And we look forward to the next whatever things happening out there in the big old world.
It's going to be nice. 2023, like, it kind of peters off a little bit, which is nice. And then as we, you know, head into 2024, then the energies will pick up once again. But 2024 is definitely, when you look at 2023 to 2024, it's definitely a gentler year. Like, there's still obviously things that are going to happen. But when we look at it in the grand scheme of things, 2023 was something else. Let's be real.
Yeah, true. Wow.
I'm
excited. I'm excited for the to be a little relaxed too. But
well, I just appreciate kind of having a little bit of like as you say, when you know something beautiful is happening, you can go, oh, I'm really grateful for this. Or when something shit is happening, you can go, okay, you know, just trust what it's about and it's for my highest good, and don't fight it. Just try to understand it and bring the good out of it. What's the silver lining? All those type of things. Not being passive around it, but just, you know, optimizing it as opposed to seeing it as something that pulls you down and under. And so having you know, share this information kind of just really opens your eyes into being able to be in tune with the seasons and self, isn't it? You know, what the cosmos brings us. Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Em.
Thank you, Em.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you for listening, and remember, all links to our guest are in the notes. Leave us some comment here or message us on Instagram how our guest today connected with you, or perhaps something you wish to share. A special thank you to the blissful Ksenia Luki for our theme song. Joe and I will be with you next week.
Bye.
Ciao.
She teaches me lessons, and boy does she sing. Her voice sways like a hummingbird, flies like a shooting star. She whispers, you were